Hi there, I'm Naomi Grossman, actress, writer, best known as Pepper on American Horror Story. Although there's a lot more to me. I am not monosyllabic. I speak lots of syllables, which you're about to find out. I've written a couple one-woman shows, just finishing up on my third. Excited to see where that goes. The last two took me everywhere from off Broadway in New York to Edinburgh's Fringe Festival, West End in London, and beyond. So yeah, that's kind of what keeps me busy.
What do you think people's first impression of you is?
That's a good one. That's hard. I'm always surprised. I often get that I'm strong, and I am, but you know, I'm 5 feet of fun. Like I'm 110 pounds soaking wet. Like I'm not. I think. And there's a juxtaposition in what people expect, that when they think of strong, they think of like big and tough, you know, macho, which I'm none of those things. I mean, I drive a little like pink car that you like a little roller skate that you could just like pick up, you know. But I you know, I am strong. I'm like I'm very comfortable in my skin, and I'm very authentic to myself, and I think that is sometimes surprising. I think sometimes people we're deceived by looks, I think. So I think that's what I get a lot, is that I'm strong and I'm confident. I also actually did a little Zoom roast for my birthday recently, and which was very telling. It was actually turned into a big love fest, and people said over and over and over how kind I was, which I thought was so nice. I that's not what I think I put out there. I'm not that I'm a cruel person ever, but I just I think there's other adjectives that I would you know, have ready before, like kind, but hey, I'll take it. I'm extroverted, and I'm fun, and I'm quirky, and I'm focused, and I'm driven, and I'm disciplined, and I'm a lot of things before I would say kind, but again, hey, I'll take it.
Right? I think we all would. I think everyone just wants someone to tell them that they think they're a nice person, right? There's something about that that's warming and gentle to hear, and it makes you feel validated and good. You said that you feel that people perceive you to be strong. What does strength mean to you?
Well, I think what they're seeing in me is an unwavering belief in myself. And you know, for example, I'm single, and I'm not necessarily trying to change that. You know, I think a lot of women are guilty of you know, sort of our existence is wholly dependent on a man, or at least being in a relationship. And I don't feel that way at all. Like, I feel like if a relationship can add to what I got going on, then yeah.
I think that what I hear you saying is that to you, strength is synonymous with independence.
Yes.
And kind of being self-sufficient and not relying on other people for your happiness and to hold your integrity.
Correct. Exactly. Thank you. And yeah. I mean, it's to say that I haven't in the past. Like, I absolutely found myself in relationships in which I'm, acquiescing in service of others and, making all kinds of ridiculous compromises just because I wanted it to work so badly, even though it was so obviously like their square peg just didn't fit in my round hole, but I wanted it to work. And I think now I'm like at a point in my life where I'm like, no, like I'm enough. And if it's not fitting, then don't force it.
I had this conversation with someone yesterday, and this seems to come up in different manifests in different conversations, but it's all about that pace car. And we are kind of have these expectations from being younger of this happens at this stage, this happens at this stage, and this happens at this stage. When in reality, it happens when we're ready.
Yeah.
And there's no one that can tell us we're ready except for us.
Oh, I still feel that way when well, I am now finally at an age where when a friend is like, oh, I'm having a baby, I'm like, oh, does your mom know? Like, it's one of those things where I'm like, no, Naomi, we're not like teenagers, like, oh my God, what are you going to do? Like, we're like, this person is married. They've been trying for many years. Maybe they're even in vitro. Like, so, yeah.
It's okay. We can be happy for them. It's okay.
Yes. But it's funny that I personally have not been ready for a lot of these things that I was supposed to be ready for. Like you said, like, I don't know, 20 years ago, like I'm still not ready for it. And that's okay. I also have friends that are not ready for the things that I'm, doing and have dealt with. So we're all on our own path. And I do agree that it's silly for age really is just a number. And
yeah, and there's no one to tell you when your time is right for the things that are right for you. You said something about there's people that aren't ready for the things that you've been doing or that you've experienced. Do you want to share some of those things?
At the end of it all, I can say that I've always had kind of this priority list, and my career was always like number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4. Like it was always like, it was all the things. And then like way down there, I was like, oh yeah, maybe I'll get married. Family. I never like saw that clearly the way I've always seen my career. And I think that's important. I think it's important that it's like, to thine own self be true. Like my truth is I value my career more than anything, hands down.
So where do you think that comes from for you, that your career is priority number 1? Do you think that's something from when you were younger? Is that something someone else instilled in you? Or is that just how Naomi was built?
I don't know. That's a really good question. I think a little bit of all of the above. I think that I am like a performer on the Enneagram, like 100% through and through. Like if there's not an audience watching, then what's the point? Like I am all about having like attention on me and an audience at all times. I don't want to bring my daddy issues into this, but I do think that between my own sort of performer personality and the fact that my dad was like really good at a lot of things. Like he's kind of one of those, what do they call it? Like idiot savant. Like he's so good at so many things, with the exception of showing affection for his only child. So I think I have been trying to like get my dad's attention for my whole life. And, he's too busy, like winning tennis tournaments and scoring hockey goals and designing homes in Architectural Digest, and you name it. I mean, he's like a professor, potter, jeweler, basket maker, wine connoisseur, painter, potter, yeah, like all the things. And so, it just didn't leave a whole lot of room for their little late in life miracle. So as a result, I feel like I might be sort of overcompensating, like, like look at me, I've just always felt that way whenever I find myself, like, in the front of class, like with my hand raised, like, desperate for attention. I have to remember that's got to come from somewhere, and that's my own theory as to maybe where.
That makes sense. And so that would maybe even explain why acting a little bit, being on the stage, being in the spotlight, being the one that's got the attention being paid to them, when, as you mentioned, your dad is this jack of all trades, total master of so many things. And the one thing you want him to master was the father.
Yeah. I think that I decided early on that acting was not only what I loved, but what I was good at. And so that's why I just chose that. And, and yeah, ever since I've been sort of trying to get him to pay attention.
Well, what is something that would surprise people to know about you?
I do think I have a lot of juxtaposition to me. I think, for example, I keep an immaculate house. You wouldn't know that looking in this room. It's like full of like pepper art everywhere. But I'm this like super OCD. Like all of my products are turned to the exact right angles, and like everything is like perfect. Like I'm immaculately clean. And I think people, between my like kind of crazy COVID hair and just like in general sort of like wacky personality, they think that I'm just going to be this sort of like mess of a person. And I'm not. When they walk in and they're like, whoa, that's when I think that's something that people is always like surprising to people about me.
I love that. I love that. There's something to be said for that, right? And I'm sure that leads into how you can prepare for your scripts and for your roles. So before I ask you like the last little question that I normally ask, I wanted to give you an opportunity to touch on one, what was your first acting role and what did it mean to you?
My first acting role, I was the little bear in the Three Bears in, Goldilocks and the Three Bears at Love and Care Preschool. That's probably not what you were going for. You probably meant my first like professional, but here, I'll tell you this. I once found myself on an escalator with Jerry Seinfeld, and all of a sudden, they started talking to me, and of course, I was like, okay, acknowledge the elephant in the room. Like, it's Jerry Seinfeld. Like, he's pretty identifiable, So I actually, I was like, I do comedy too. And he was like, no kidding. Like, how long have you done comedy? And I was like, oh, forever. And which is ridiculous. I mean, it's not totally untrue. Like, I have been doing this for a long, long time. Like but it's still absurd to be telling Jerry Seinfeld that you've been doing comedy forever. And he was like, where? And that's where I was like, oh, God, I was the bear in the Love and Care Preschool. And I literally told him about how I had, my first role as the little bear in Goldilocks and the Three Bears. And I know he was like, oh my God, that nut job. But, in my mind, that is technically like my first credit. Like, I was 5 and I was cast as the little bear. Alas, fortunately, I've gone on to do some other things since, and I really wish that I could have maybe brought those up instead, but
no, the bear is by far the best thing you could have said. Like, By far. I love it. No, in fact, do we have it on tape is what I'd like to know. But no, I love it.
Oh, I'm positive we don't. I wish. Oh my God, I wish.
Since I got that wonderful bear story out of you, I'll ask you how you enjoyed your time on American Horror Story before I ask you our last question to close out this conversation.
Oh, it was an amazing time. I mean, yeah, it was perfect. Like the role unto itself was just so special. And I had no idea what it was. Like when it like I remember the makeup people going like, "Oh, you get to do Pepper." And I was like, "I don't even know what that means yet," And I mean, literally, like when I was cast in it, I thought I was just one of like an army of pinheads. Like I had no idea I was like, the most, batshit crazy in the asylum. I had no idea. And so it was all just sort of it was like this onion that I just kept like finding things out about. And then to get to the very bottom of it and then find out there's a whole second season. Like it was just this like gift that kept giving. It was, I mean, the whole, like I said, to think that I went into it thinking I was a glorified extra, to all of a sudden, like my Pepper for President posters popping up on telephone poles, and my IMDb to go from like 93,000 to 3,000 to 300 to 1. Like it's just, the whole thing was just sort of this dream. Like, I could go on and on. I mean, I wrote a show about it. That's what my new one woman show is all about. So you can look forward to that.
I love that. What's the title of the new one woman show?
American Horror Story with a W.
Right. That's amazing. And when will we see that?
That's a good question. With COVID, who knows? We probably won't be gathering in theaters anytime soon, which is good news and bad. The bad news is that obvious, theater is my passion and first love, and we can't do it now. So that sucks. But the good news is my real dream for it is to see it on a, as a 1-hour comedy special or one of these. And the fact is, the COVID has actually made that probably more likely than it is to do it in a traditional, theater setting. So I don't have an answer for you just yet. But
well, do you promise to keep me posted?
What's that?
I said, well, promise to keep me posted.
Absolutely.
Before I close out this conversation, let me say thank you again for taking the time and appreciating being on Zoom with me. And I know that it is not everyone's favorite thing during quarantine to not get to intermingle in person, but I have enjoyed this so much. I want to ask you one final question. As you are on set, on Zoom, in the community, doing your one woman show, if you had the opportunity to hold up a sign that says one thing about Naomi, what would you want it to say?
Luddite, or tech, low tech, or she couldn't remember her password. That's what I always imagine will be my tombstone.